Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's wonderful to be here at Industrial Bank. It's wonderful to be here in Ward 7, which is where I live, of course. I've lived for quite some time. Anyway, I want to welcome you all to our press briefing. Lisa, how are you? Nice to see you. Lisa used to work in the council office a while ago in Ward 7. Anyway, I want to thank Industrial Bank for hosting us today. You'll hear from the Industrial Bank President and CEO, Doyle Mitchell, shortly. A family that has been leaders in this city for a very, very long time, and we are delighted to be here today. Mr. Mitchell, thank you very much for having us. I want to start out by reminding everyone that improving quality education for the residents of the District of Columbia from birth to 24 years of age is one of our key priorities, and for me has been from the very beginning of this administration. And that, of course, is inextricably tied to several of our other priorities like job creation, economic development, fiscal stability, and public safety. And following on that, it makes sense, I think, that financial literacy would be a critical aspect of preparing our young people as well as our adults to succeed in what we think is a continuing, emerging new economy here in the city. The D.C. government, as well as the private sector, both benefit from a financially healthy workforce and knowledgeable consumers. And I want to add again that our unemployment rate has come down significantly since we started. It was 11.2%, and even though we've had some ups and downs, it still is now around 8.6%, which is a very significant drop from what it was when we started. We continue to encourage public-private partnerships that benefit our residents. For example, Bank on D.C., which is operated through the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking, or DSB as the acronym goes, is working with the D.C. Public Schools as well as the Office of Veterans Affairs to avert home foreclosures. Again, we're here at Industrial Bank, which has been in the district, right, Doyle, for 75 years? 79. 79 years, going on 80. And I'm sure you all are going to have a big celebration when you hit that number 80. This bank, this institution, is a bank-on D.C. partner as well. It's one of the reasons why we're here. Industrial is actually one of two banks chartered in the District of Columbia, including Bank of Georgetown being the other one. Both have helped to educate and motivate the community with nearly 1,000 volunteer hours since 2012. This includes conducting financial literacy seminars in schools, churches, as well as community centers, all to empower and educate children, elders, working families, professionals, and anyone else who could benefit from support to achieve financial wellness. What we're doing today is in keeping with Financial Literacy Awareness Month, which I'm proclaiming for April, and I'm delighted to announce that DSB, with the assistance of Bank on D.C. and the Financial Literacy Council, has created a community calendar of events that will be posted on the DSB website. That's dsb.dc.gov. And, of course, on dc.gov citywide calendar. You will find programs and resources to build assets and grow wealth during the month and all year round. I'm sure growing wealth is of interest to everybody, presumably. Just a few of the things. The Valor for Bank on D.C., in partnership with the D.C. Office of Veterans Affairs, will offer workshops specifically designed for veterans. With the Office on Aging, DSB will offer and host workshops on banking and insurance issues in Wards 7 and 8 on the east end of the city. And then DSB, is, along with the Office of Latino Affairs, is participating in a year-long national effort called Oportunidades. Hope I got that right. Tour 2013. The private partners in this project are ClearPoint Counseling Services and Solutions and Mexican consulates. They will conduct quarterly financial education programs focused on issues of critical importance to the Hispanic community. I am absolutely delighted that Latino residents in the district will be among the 9 million people served in 12 cities across the country this year. If you want a list of those 12 cities, we'd be happy to give you a list. We are one of the 12, of course. Claiming tax benefits and refunds is another important step toward increasing financial literacy, income, as well as savings. Therefore, as the tax season winds down, I want to encourage district residents who meet income qualifications, and that would be making under $57,000 a year, to take advantage of free tax preparation services provided by the DC Earned Income Tax Credit Campaign, or DCEITC. DCEITC also offers taxpayers year-round support, including one-on-one credit counseling. The campaign is run by Capital Area Asset Builders, which is probably known to everybody in this room, Community Tax Aid, along with United Way, and is supported by $248,000 that we've made available through the D.C. government to be able to support these efforts. The Office of the Chief Technology Officer is also a campaign partner, and Octo's mobile tech van will be in a neighborhood near everyone, near many of you all, next week to help residents file their taxes. Residents should visit the website dceitc.org for more information on the services that are available. Finally, I want to thank the members of the Financial Literacy Council. In 2009, the District of Columbia was the first in the nation to pass legislation creating a local financial literacy council, and I was pleased to be the chair of the council at the time. And then last year, some of you will remember, we were at Edgewood, where we asked 7 people in the city to serve on the council, and asked them then to develop a strategic set of recommendations to enhance financial literacy in our city. In fact, some of you will remember John Hope Bryant, who runs Operation Hope, which is a national organization, was with us, and I'm sorry that he's not able to be with us again as we celebrate Financial Literacy Month. The Council has worked hard to engage a range of stakeholders and to formulate solutions to enhance financial literacy. And of course, I look forward to the recommendations that we will receive from them as we continue to move forward in this area. We want to be the most banked city, and I guess that means that people are saving money. The most banked city, the most financially literate city, and the most financially empowered city. And the Literacy Council's work is helping us to begin to achieve those goals. I want to ask the council chair, the Financial Literacy Council chair, Tamara, Haye, DAFOUR. Is Joe Vaughn here? Oh, there he is. Okay. I want to ask them if they would come up shortly. But before I do that, I want to ask our host if he would come up and say a few words on behalf of financial literacy, on behalf of this great institution, and on behalf of our great city. So please join me in welcoming Darrell Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome to Industrial Bank. We are standing now in our Jesse H. Mitchell branch. It's been here since 1966, named after my grandfather who founded the bank in 1934. We're just delighted and honored to be here today to share in this announcement and to host this announcement. Industrial Bank has done financial literacy formally and informally for a long time. We spend a lot of time with our customers, and we try to educate them as much as possible on matters from how to open a simple checking account to how to buy a home and how to be best prepared to open and start successful businesses. We are a part of Bank on DC. We are enjoying that relationship. I think we have over 30 accounts at the present time with Bank on DC. I'm also delighted to inform you that we don't have one single home that we've had to foreclose on and take back throughout this. Thank you. Thank you. And the simple reason is we offer our customers products that we know that they can handle and they can manage short term and long term. And so that's why we believe that we've had some success. It's not easy. Everybody does have difficulties. We've tried to work and restructure and modify as many loans as possible. And so it's not to say that will be the case forever, but certainly until now we've been able to do that. We also look forward to adding some input to the Financial Council's literacy report in the District of Columbia and continuing our partnership with DISB and Bank on DC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Again, we will be happy to be a part of the 80th anniversary of Industrial Bank as well. How many branches do you have now? It's 8. Fantastic. Okay. 6 in the district. All right. I want to have the leadership of our Financial Literacy Council come up. Chairperson DAFOUR and the Vice Chair Vaughn, if they would come up and say a few words. Again, they've been working at this for about a year now. Is that right, Tamara? Yes, thank you all very much. I remember when we were over to Edgewood to get this started.
It's amazing. 1 year goes by so fast. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. What a great day it is to be in Ward 7. I actually live a couple of blocks from here, so very happy to see you all. My name is Tamara Haye and I have the honor to serve as the chairwoman of the Financial Literacy Council in the District of Columbia. I work with a team of 8 other individuals who have demonstrated exemplary performance in taking the initiative to increase financial literacy here in the District of Columbia. We have accomplished all 9 steps outlined by the Advisory Council to create financially capable communities here in D.C. By month's end, we will release final drafts of our recommendations to our administrative agency, as well as to the Executive Office of the Mayor. These deliverables define with clear goals and objectives the financial capability of DC by leveraging existing resources, also stakeholder suggestions that we received during our 6 public meetings, and as well as our first financial literacy town hall that was held in November of last year. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Tamara. Good morning, everyone. My name is Joseph Vaughn. I'm the Vice Chair of the Financial Literacy Council, and I want to start by first thanking the Mayor and the D.C. Council for their wisdom in appointing this body. I think it's critically important to have financial literacy as a key component of economic empowerment for our residents. Like this bank branch, we hope that this will be replicated across the city in terms of economic opportunity. Savings and accounts are key to achieving lifelong goals, whether it be leveraging DC's 529 plan, retirement, pension savings, 401k engagement. We want to make sure that we're looking at all possibilities as we work toward formulating a plan. And so I want to thank the stakeholders for joining us this past year, my colleagues, the chair for her leadership, and let's get moving, DC. Let's implement this strategic plan, and let's work with the mayor and the council to see it to come to fruition. So thank you.
All right, let me thank the chair and the vice chair once again for their willingness to do this. One of the things that we tried to do, among a number, is to expand citizen input in the city. When we came into office, there were about 900 vacancies in our boards and commissions, and we have appointed literally hundreds of people. And I think it gives people a chance to be able to have a stake in their city, and frankly, it enormously expands the wherewithal of the district government to be able to solve problems. So the Financial Literacy Council is a sterling example of that, and the 2 people who are behind me are a wonderful example of what it means to engage citizens in the work of our city and of our government. So how about another hand for the Financial Literacy Council? I want to call upon David Holt at this stage, who is the Director of Community Outreach for ClearPoint Credit Counseling and Solutions, and will speak briefly about the outreach that they're engaged in to our Hispanic community here in the city. I want to recognize, too, we're joined by the Director of our Office of Latino Affairs today, who is very dynamic and does a great job, Roxana Olivas. Roxana.
Thank you very much. On behalf of ClearPoint, I'm David Holt, and I want to thank Mayor Gray for the opportunity to be part of the Washington, D.C.'s emphasis on financial literacy during the month of April. By recognizing this critical importance of accessible financial education, the city is demonstrating a commitment to the equalizing power of economic opportunity. ClearPoint Credit Counseling Solutions is a nonprofit agency with a simple yet important mission: consumer health through financial education. With the firm commitment and support of the Consulate of Mexico, the Office on Latino Affairs, and Bank on D.C., and other consulates throughout the country, the 2013 Oportunidades Tour will reach some of our most underserved populations with education tools they need to help build a financial future. It's important to note, however, that the need for financial literacy knows no socioeconomic boundaries. The basic building blocks for financial literacy, budgeting, understanding needs versus wants, and wisely and effectively using credit are critical for all individuals in our society. The Oportunidades Tour during the week of April 22nd may be focused on primarily Spanish-speaking consumer. However, the message and knowledge is available to all. This is demonstrated most clearly by the fact that these workshops are free to the public. If you cannot make it to one of the Oportunidades workshops, I encourage you to consider attending other similar events that will be taking place throughout the month. Again, I would like to thank Mayor Gray for including ClearPoint Credit Counseling, and I also want to thank Mr. Mitchell, our gracious host. Thank you.
We have a number of people here today who've been involved in issues around financial literacy, and just let me thank you for coming today. Let me ask if you would stand and be recognized as folks who are contributing to one of the most important areas of literacy in the city, and that is financial literacy. So if you've had a role in financial literacy in some way, shape, or form, please stand up and be recognized. All right, I want to ask I want to ask Tamara and Joseph if they would come back up. We want to present you all with the resolution, or the proclamation, I should say, excuse me, the proclamation that declares this Financial Literacy Awareness Month in the city. And, given the fact that we have town hall meetings much of the month around the budget, I guess the budget is a financial issue, isn't it? I will make mention of that during the town hall meetings as well. I'm not going to read all the whereases because they're a bit lengthy, but I do want to indicate that I'm proud to declare, to proclaim April 2013 as Financial Literacy Month here in the District of Columbia. And I want to encourage all of our residents of our great city to increase their understanding of financial matters in the District of Columbia as pertain to themselves, pertain to their family, and to others with whom they may have contact. So, again, I want to thank you all for your leadership and helping us get this going. I know there's been a lot of work in the last year to be able to get to where we are. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you very much. Okay. All right. Questions on financial literacy? Ms. Brazil?
I have a question on financial literacy, but more a related question. In the not too distant past, there was a serious problem in the District of Columbia with large neighborhoods not being served by financial institutions. In terms of whatever report your Financial Literacy Council is preparing, have they looked at this issue? Is it a recurring problem? And what, if anything, is your administration prepared to do to bring commercial banking services or financial services to underserved neighborhoods?
Well, let me ask the chair and the vice chair if they would come back up. Y'all getting a lot of mileage on your shoes today, aren't you? And address it from the council perspective.
And can you repeat their question once again?
There has been a recurring problem in many parts of the District of Columbia that are underserved or totally lacking in commercial banking or commercial financial institutions. Is that still an issue? And if so, what, if anything, is your council doing to look at the problem and the administration doing to address the issue?
Well, the council will be developing recommendations that will speak to questions such as that. As I mentioned earlier, I'm actually a resident here in Ward 7, and I'm very cognizant of your question. That was one of the reasons in which why I was so honored to be selected to lead the efforts to address issues such as that. It's a matter of business, and we believe that we need to work with our partners, such as banks and credit unions, to be able to establish the importance, the relevancy, and the need to have branches located east of the river. We are beginning to do this, and we hope that we will have outcomes within the next couple of years.
And if I could just follow up on that, I think we all recognize that brick and mortar institutions, there's always an opportunity for growth. One of the models that I think that would be where there's potential opportunity in the District of Columbia is looking at branches within some of the grocery stores. Safeway, for example, leverages some of its partners, but Industrial Bank is a partner. I think there are many partners that really, I think, there's a business opportunity, as Tamara said, for growth, and we hope that they will recognize that being a community bank means opportunity and growth for them. And so right now, I think in terms of our recommendations, I think we're focused more on the core needs of the citizens with respect to just understanding the importance of how to manage savings, a budget, that sort of thing. The question of growing commercial opportunity is one that goes hand in hand with economic development. So we're hoping to partner with the city as well as other institutions to see that come to fruition. So.
I'd just like to follow up. It would seem to me that your Financial Literacy Council, in terms of doing its work, in terms of informing citizens of the things they need to do to get their financial house in order, it's almost like the tail end of the problem. If, in fact, neighborhoods are not served, or someone doesn't have a place in their neighborhood to open a checking account, to go and talk to a mortgage banker or something like that, I mean, have we even mapped out what parts of the city are lacking in these services?
Well, I think we're looking more foundationally at at its infancy. I don't think it's a matter of looking at where the financial institutions are as much as it's helping people understand the importance of savings first. And I think one of the things that we're trying to do is leverage the services that are being provided by district agencies like DISB and others who are counseling. When I look around the room, I see some of our partners like the Capital Area Asset Builders. They host training sessions around the city to talk to folks about financial literacy. But, I think it's also true that the banking industry has changed a lot. I mean, I think there's a lot of services that are available to you online that once were not available. And so I think we don't necessarily need to have brick and mortar institutions in every neighborhood for people to have access to banking. The question is, how do you manage that over time? And I'll defer to you.
And I think what's also relevant is recognizing that financial literacy is multifaceted and the needs are numerous, whether from individual or community or institution. So part of the challenge of what we've been doing is actually understanding that there's different needs amongst the different constituents that we are striving for. And again, your question speaks to things that we've discussed and that we hope to build on going forward.
We also have we have the deputy director, deputy commissioner, I should say, Disby, who is here today. The Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking, Chester McPherson. I'm going to ask him to come up. And I don't know, Doyle, you've got 6 branches now in the District of Columbia. I think the point that Joseph Vaughn made is absolutely right, that with technology, the bricks and mortar approach is important, but not as important as it used to be. So I'm going to ask Chester first, and then you can add to it.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here to celebrate Financial Literacy Month. Thank you for coming out. Now, in reference to the question at hand, I think I should point out that within the banking industry, we have 2 separate regulatory regimes. You have the federal regulatory regimes where banks are chartered at the federal level, and you have the state banking regime where banks are chartered at the local level. Industrial Bank and Bank of Georgetown, or 2 locally chartered District of Columbia banks. And so it is with those institutions that we have the most influence in trying to encourage and suggest for them ways in which they could improve and provide services to district residents. Yes, we at the District of Columbia Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking, we are aware of areas within our neighborhoods that are lacking physical facilities, and we do continue to have conversations with especially our local chartered banks, to encourage them to consider where they would like to establish branches. However, as Tamara mentioned earlier, it really, at the end of the day, is a financial decision for the institutions, and so they have to do a cost-benefit analysis to determine where to locate a branch. Certainly some things that we've thought about is whether it would be appropriate for the city to consider special banking districts where we may offer certain types of incentives to encourage the placement of a physical branch. I know that that's one of the things that we have discussed internally. It hasn't been developed fully yet, so we have not presented the mayor with a proposal because we're in the initial stages of doing a survey to see what our colleagues nationally are doing. I know New York City has a successful program, and that's the program that we're hoping to use as the model. So that's the most definitive answer I could provide, to say that internally we're doing a national survey to see how other jurisdictions like us that have underserved neighborhoods, what are they doing to encourage a placement of branches in their neighborhoods. That's the best I can do for now, but I'll be happy to provide additional information as we develop our study. Thank you.
I agree. I think actually a study to see if there's some opportunities, incentives for banks to locate in certain neighborhoods would be an excellent idea, and we'd be interested in taking a look at that. One of the things that I think the council might want to take a look at also is the digital divide, not just financial literacy knowledge, but obviously the banking industry has changed, and with online banking and bill pay and so forth, you don't necessarily need to be physically located where your bank branch is. However, I think we know in some of the most underserved communities, the access to computers and the knowledge and comfort levels to deal with computers can be somewhat of a challenge.
Thank you all very much. It's a pretty complete answer. And the last point is really an essential one. We really are focusing a lot on improving our technology presence here in the District of Columbia, and working to try to improve the technology, the computer literacy, digital literacy in the District of Columbia as well. I don't know, Roxana, whether you wanted to add anything on this at all in terms of what we're trying to do with our Latino community here in the District of Columbia. This may have been an adequate answer, or there may be other things. I know you I know you do this every day. So if you want to add something, I'd be happy to hear from you.
Well, first of all, thank you for being here. It's a pleasure, especially with the Spanish community actually doing this. We're growing tremendously with the limited English proficiency. So actually focusing, we're no longer just in Ward 1. As Dorothy, I'm sure you know that. We're actually spreading everywhere. We actually have a large number now here in Ward 7. So actually really focusing on that is tremendous. The mayor's doing a fabulous job really reaching out to our Latino community and also the Consulate of Mexico as well. In partnership, we actually also give books out to the different schools that have a large Latino community in Spanish. So then the parents could partner with their children to talk to them and read books in Spanish. So thank you very much.
All right. Any other financial literacy questions? Bruce?
Don Mitchell mentioned that they've had no foreclosures. Could you talk about foreclosures citywide? What's going on there?
Chester, you probably would know better about that. Obviously, one of the things we tried to do, Bruce, is to try to avoid this wherever possible, because there's not much greater instability than not having a place to live. We see that among our homeless population. Excuse me. I will say this. I'm not aware of any of the families that we deal with in the homeless population that are there because they have been foreclosed on. Typically, it's people who may have had rental issues. They may have been living in circumstances where they were doubled up. They weren't on the lease. It may have been a public housing situation. But I'm not aware of any situations that may have been precipitated as a result of foreclosure on a home.
Okay, I have a two-part. Do you have numbers on foreclosures? Are they better, worse? What's going on in the city in terms of foreclosure?
I must say that I didn't bring my statistics with me because I wasn't prepared to address a foreclosure issue. But I could tell you that as a trend, foreclosures in the District of Columbia has declined since 2010, and one could attribute the decline to a number of factors. First, last year the attorneys general settled a massive $25 billion suit with a number of service providers. So from our perspective, we believe that a number of banks were in a wait-and-see mode to see the outcome of that settlement. Interestingly enough, the recommendation from that settlement, it's not unlike a number of requirements in a new law that the District of Columbia adopted in December of 2010, a law called Saving DC Homes from Foreclosure. Now, prior to the adoption of that law, within the District of Columbia, you could literally foreclose on a property within about 35 days. You provided the homeowner with notice, and you could, if they didn't object within 30 days, you could get an auction, or it could be foreclosed. And so what the new law did in December of 2010, it inserted a mediation process. And we believe that that mediation process, the requirement for banks to meet with homeowners before they actually can proceed with a foreclosure, has had a significant impact in delaying the speed with which homeowners in the district were foreclosed. So you had two parallel simultaneous occurrences. You had the banks as a business practice taking a holistic look at their practice because they're concerned about being sued by the federal government and state governments. And also you had the introduction of this new law, which delayed the process, and delayed the process in terms of the steps that a bank has to go through in order to effect a foreclosure in the District of Columbia.
Were any homes significantly saved from foreclosure as a result of this 2010?
I think the numbers, if I may recall correctly, I think we were at the height of the market. We had about 2,500 foreclosures that were in the pipeline per se. And I believe we're averaging I know it's been a significant decline. Another factor as well, a number of the banks are working out options in lieu of foreclosures. So, they're doing short sales, they're providing incentives to homeowners so as not to have to go through the exact foreclosure
The
process.
exact data from you today, right?
Yes, we have that information available.
Mr. Mayor, can I just follow up with another question? I would imagine the more people you get into banks to open up accounts, or the fewer people that have to go to these check cashing places. Can you give us any information on the check cashing places? How many people are still using those? If they're fewer, if they're more? What's going on there in the city?
Statistically, based on reports we've received, I think when I did the math, using the average, we would have about 145,000 district residents who are unbanked. So those would be the residents who would be using the check cashing services. They pay on average about $800 per year for these services, which is somewhere in the tune of maybe $111 million per year if you use, the law of averages. As to the exact number of check cashing institutions in the District of Columbia, I don't have that number in my head right now.
But it's still a very lucrative business in the district.
Well, you were averaging $800 per year per resident who does not have a banking account. So yes, it is significant.
And that's the enemy. That's the number you're trying to bring down.
That's the number we're trying to bring down. I think since 2010, we've enrolled about 4,000 residents in the Bank on DC program, and so we're assuming that those enrollees are continuing to maintain their bank accounts, and as such would see a reduction in the service fees that they're paying to use non-banks.
You got a long way to go. Over 100,000 people using these.
Yeah, if I think it's like 26%. I don't remember my percentage, but when I did the math, it was like 145,000 using 610,000 residents as my base.
Hold on. Bruce, I think we understand what the questions are that you want answers to, and we'll get you the data within the next 24 hours. Or try to get it to you today if we possibly can. Right, Pedro? Okay. Mike?
If those numbers are accurate, if a third of DC residents don't have savings accounts, should more be done on the front end of this issue? I mean, is enough being done in DCPS teaching young people about the importance of having savings accounts?
Yeah, it is being done. That's one of the reasons why the legislation was passed in the first place, Mike, in 2009. And that's why the Financial Literacy Council was appointed, and that's why we've tried to be as supportive as we can of what they've done. I saw some data that indicated that I think there's almost 2% increase not this number, in the number of people who have increased their banking relationships in a formal sense. And then we've got 24% of our residents in the metro area who are either underbanked or unbanked, meaning that you can just explain what underbanked is, but unbanked is obvious, and that means you don't have any formal relationship with a bank at all.
Just to provide some quick data, so 23.9% of residents in the metro area, which means that approximately 146,000 district residents, if we use that statistics, which is about 117 million in fees each year that these unbanked or unbanked residents pay to the check cashing services, money transmitters, etc.
Can you tell us the main motivation for those residents not to join a bank? Why are they telling you that they don't want to be a part of a bank?
From what I'm hearing anecdotally, some it's cultural. You may have a significant number of new residents who, for whatever reasons, especially if they have an undocumented family member in their family, then there is the concern that connections or relationships with a more formal, established system could, lead to immigration issues. For some people, it's convenience, quite frankly. For some people, it's lack of knowledge. They just have not been exposed or trained in the proper or the benefits of having a formal relationship with a banking institution. So for any myriad number of reasons.
But to follow up on that, can you assure, say, undocumented residents that you don't share this information, say, with the IRS? You can't give that kind of assurance, can you?
The banks have certain obligation, and unfortunately, I'm not up to speed on the current requirements for banks to report, but there are certain requirements about knowing your customers. There are certain Bank Secrecy Act requirements, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe.
Yeah, I can. And I could talk a long time on bank regulations because there's a lot of it. And one of the aspects of bank regulations that relates to opening accounts is to be under the Bank Secrecy Act, is being able to properly identify everyone that comes into your bank and who you're dealing with. And those requirements have been expanded, not just to one form of ID, but in many cases 2 forms of ID.
But if we can cut to the chase, a number of the undocumented residents do not go to banks for fear of this information being turned over to authorities.
That's right.
I know in a number of areas, the city government has a policy of not cooperating with, naturalization, that sort of thing. What about the banks? You can't guarantee, right? You have to turn over certain information to federal authorities in compliance with regulations.
Well, we have to properly identify everyone that comes in the bank and wants to open up an account. So they wouldn't, if they didn't provide the standard forms of government-issued IDs, then it would be very difficult for them to open up an account to begin with.
Okay. Any other financial literacy questions? Bruce, we'll get that information back to you ASAP. In fact, Pedro is right there beside you on your right, and he'll make sure you get it, hopefully by before the day is out. All right. Other questions? Yes.
Questions on anything? Eric Beamer, Washington Examiner. Michael Brown dropped out of the race last night. Any comments on sort of his role in D.C. politics, and do you have an endorsement in the race?
No, I have not endorsed anybody. Don't plan to endorse anybody at this stage, and I didn't even realize he had dropped out of the race.
So, Mayor, to follow up on that, with Michael Brown out of the race now, I think sort of the consensus is that one of the front runners is a Republican. And I just wonder if you had any feelings as a Democrat. I know you're not trying to endorse a particular candidate, but do you have feelings on whether a Democrat or Republican should be elected?
Well, I always support Democrats. I've been a Democrat throughout my life, so I certainly support the Democratic Party. I was the chair of the Ward 7 Democrats for, I guess, three or 4 years. So, yes, I support the Democratic Party heartily.
And I know you've worked closely with Anita Bonds, who's the chairman of the state party, and she's running here. And I mean, do you feel any sense of given the support she's given you over the years to support her and her campaign?
Well, as I indicated, Mike, I haven't. I don't plan to endorse anybody in a formal sense at this stage. So, if that's your question, I'm not endorsing anybody.
Mr. Mayor, on that same subject, there's some suggestion by people who are saying that Michael Brown is out. It makes Anita Bonds the only African-American in the race, and that should she not win on April 23rd, the white-black split on the council will go to 8-5 white. You've been around racial politics all your life, as you know, and you've had to fight it at times. What's your thought about the racial makeup of the council if it goes to 8-5 white? I think it would be the first time in the city's home rule district.
Well, I look forward to working with every council member, all 13 members. Tom, I think you've heard me speak to this issue before. I would hope that everybody brings essentially the same set of values to the experience, and that is to be able to do the best that we possibly can to continue to improve the quality of life for people in the city, to continue to improve educational outcomes, to continue to improve our financial wherewithal in the city, to get people, more and more people back to work, to expand the economy all across the city. And so people who want to do that on the council, I look forward to working with them.
But do you at least acknowledge that people are talking about it in those terms, whether you agree with those terms or not, given the drop in African-American population in the city over the last 20 years?
Oh, there's no doubt that people will talk about that. I don't know what they're saying because I haven't been involved in any of those conversations, but I have no doubt that people are talking about those issues. I mean, the issue of race has been, a subject in the city forever, but depending upon the perspective that one brings. So it'll continue to be discussed.
Mr. Mayor, could you talk about your embattled fire chief? Do you continue to support the chief?
Yeah, chief is he's still the fire chief.
Did you have any reaction to his appearance before the council and the Q&A that took place there? Do you have any concern about whether or not they have adequate number of ambulances in reserve, that sort of thing?
Well, we're going to continue to work with the fire chief. Deputy Mayor Quandra is spending an enormous amount of time working with him and with FMES to try to make sure we have, full and complete information, especially on the equipment that we have available, Bruce, and we'll continue to work to try to improve those conditions, and especially to continue to work to try to improve relationships, among the firefighters and the leadership within FMES.
There's a historical divide between the chief and, most of the union, going back to Tom saying based on race. I don't want to ask you that, but have you spoken specifically to the chief and given him any specific instructions as a result of developments the last couple of weeks?
Well, I've spoken to the chief very briefly, but I really left the responsibility for those, specific interactions to Deputy Mayor Quandra. He is very involved. He's been out, on Saturday nights, on Sunday nights himself. He's very well versed, and he's somebody to whom, in whom I have enormous confidence, and I'm delighted that he's working with the chief to continue to try to improve those conditions.
Any renewed concerns about the fire department, how it's being run, ambulance service, the level of equipment, functioning equipment, that sort of thing?
Oh, sure. We have those concerns every day, Bruce. And we'll continue to try to work with them to make sure that we have the best possible equipment. If you look at the budget, we've included money for equipment both in MPD as well as FMES. So I think it's reflected also in the commitments that we are continuing to make to invest in additional, new equipment. Ms. Brazil?
I'd like to follow up on Bruce's question. One of the handouts we got in the press package was the grades that different agencies have gotten under your Grade DC program. And what strikes me is FEMS, the fire department, grade in the month of February was A, and in the month of March was A+, at a time when there has been a great deal of controversy regarding the quality of services. Moreover, in the other grades, the Department of Health went from a D+ in February to a B+ in March, and the Department of Employment Services went from a D+ in February to an A- in March. I know you have an outside entity compiling these grades. Do you have any quality assurance effort underway, what have you? I frankly find it quite questionable that FEMS would have a grade of A+ in the month of March. And as I said, these other two went from grades of D to A- or B+ in a month's time.
Well, again, I'm sure you know how the system works. You're right. One, we don't do this ourselves. New Brand Analytics is the one that does the mining of the data in various social media. And then they do the analysis of the data. So they are analyzing the data that have been expressed through a variety of social media, and those are the results that they've concluded. What I find interesting is that there are a lot of people out there who are dissatisfied. Apparently, they're not expressing it.
Well, they don't know about this program of grading the district agencies.
Well, we do the best that we can to try to get that word out there, and frankly, it isn't just that they have to know about the program. They can express a view through Twitter, through Facebook, through other. People communicate tremendously through social media at this stage, and what we've got is New Brand Analytics taking advantage of those modalities to gather that information. I might send you something that represents a view about FMES, not necessarily to express, a grade for them, but that information then becomes available to New Brand Analytics as an assessment of how they're doing.
That's why I find so incredible this grade for FMES. Whether or not it's an article that's been in the newspaper or people and through the tweets and things like that, the criticism of FEMS has been so substantial in the month of February and March. And if you're saying this company is capturing these comments, I don't see how they can have a greater day plus.
Well, they do. And we'll be happy to make new brand analytics available to you if you'd like to question them. That's one of the reasons why we didn't do it ourselves, because we knew there would be questions, on both ends of the spectrum. Why did so-and-so get an A+, or why did this one get a D when they really seem to be doing better? Some of our own directors have raised questions about the grades. They thought that their grades should be higher. And we've essentially said the same thing, and that is this is being done by new brand analytics, by the mining of data, information through social media, and therefore that's how they reach their conclusions. All right. Oh, let you get the last question.
Since you were at opening day on Monday, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you a baseball question. Today in the paper today, we had a story about the Nationals Park naming rights that the Nationals are likely in the next year or two to ink a deal that could give the team as much as $15 million a year or more. I just want to know what your reaction is to that, given that the city built this stadium, spent a tremendous amount of money on it, and under the terms of the deal that we worked out, that the team gets to name the stadium and they get to keep the $15 million. What do you think of that?
I think somebody negotiated a pretty good deal for the Nationals. Thank you all very much.